The sensors are going off. Something is triggering them, but looking at the cameras I can't see anything. That's what the sensors detected, and the cameras completely missed it. This is the front corner blind spot on the Bigster, and this is what this episode is about. Although both the windscreen and the side windows are not as tall as some cars, a Volkswagen Golf 6 for example, the overall visibility on the Bigster is good. But like any car, it has a few blind spots worth knowing about, especially in tight spaces and when parking. So I'm going through each area of the car and share what I found, where visibility works, where it doesn't, and how the cameras and parking sensors are filling the gap, or maybe not. Because in a car this size, the 360 cameras and parking sensors are not really nice to have. They're actually something I really rely on. From visibility. During the day-to-day driving, no complaints there. And nothing I had to work around. One thing I actually appreciate is how well the sun visor works with this small front windscreen. When you're driving into a low sun, it covers the glare very effectively. A small detail, but it really makes the difference on those late afternoon drives heading west. Where things get more interesting is front corners. The high bonnet combined with how the cameras cover that area creates a blind zone that needs some attention, especially in tight urban situations and when parking. The cameras help, but they don't compensate. The parking sensors are also configured to trigger at a distance that feels a little bit too generous. That leaves what I'd consider too much space between the bumper and the obstacle. I've tried the front camera and the mirror cameras as well, but I still feel those corner spots aren't well covered. It's not a deal breaker. It just means more maneuver sometimes, and a bit more attention in tight spaces. One thing I already mentioned before, I keep my seat as low as possible. That's purely a personal comfort preference. A high position would improve the front corner viewing slightly, but I've made my choice on that trade-off. Lateral visibility through the windows is good. The A-pillars haven't caused any issues in the practice either. Blind spot monitoring is a different story. The system activates between 30 and 140 km per hour, and the fixed yellow light in the side mirror comes on when another vehicle enters your blind spot, traveling in the same direction. If you then signal to change the lanes while the vehicle is detected on that side, the lights start flashing, warning you that maneuver might be risky. That's the theory. In practice, the lights activate when there's nothing there and often stay silent when there actually is something. False positives are more annoying than reassuring. So far, I've also never been close enough to an obstacle to trigger the proximity warning, so honestly, I can't say if that part is working properly. My approach is simple. I always check the exterior mirrors and add a quick shoulder check before changing lanes. In the last 44,000 kilometers, I never needed to rely on the blind spot system. It's good to know it's there, but I don't count on it. Rear lateral visibility for back seats passenger is also fine. My nephews haven't complained, so that's probably a good enough reference. Rear visibility is slightly limited, but that's not unusual for an SUV of this size. For daily driving, I use everything available. Side mirrors, cameras, sensors, and the interior rear view mirror. This last one I use mainly in traffic at speed, to keep an eye on what's behind me. At parking speeds, I switch to the exterior mirrors, cameras, and sensors. With all of that combined, the limited rear visibility doesn't really bother me at all. If anything, I actually find it easier to park and navigate right spaces in reverse than going forward, though that's probably just a personal preference. I use the 360 camera systems regularly, and it genuinely helps, especially in tight spaces. It made a real difference in more than one occasion, particularly when parking next to a curb where you don't want to scratch your wheels. The mirror cameras don't activate automatically in these situations, but it's very easy to do so. That's one of the features I appreciate the most on this car. Whether I manage to keep the wheels scratch-free for the 1 million milestone remains to be seen, but at least I don't have any excuses. The parking sensors are generally reliable. They do occasionally trigger in traffic when there's nothing nearby, but it doesn't happen often to be a real problem. I haven't yet managed to capture it on camera. When it does happen, I can mute the audio and move on. There are two things I like less though. The first is camera accuracy. Both the front and rear cameras make obstacles look closer than they actually are. When you step out to check, there's often quite a bit of space left. I've seen this in other cars too, and from what I understand, it comes down to the camera position. The bumper is more exposed than the lens, which creates that optical effect. The second thing I don't really like is the parking sensors. They switch to alert mode too early. I'll demonstrate this in a test. As I approach an obstacle and the alarm starts going off, there's still a significant distance left between the bumper and whatever is in front or behind. It happens constantly in every direction. That said, I've anyway adapted. If the car starts panicking, I know I still have room to maneuver. I just learned to recalibrate my expectations. Overall, the camera and the sensor combination does a good job in compensating most of the areas where the visibility is limited. The front corners still need the most attention, as the systems don't fully cover those. After 44,000 kilometers, the visibility on the Bigster is something I've learned to work with, not to fight against it. The front corners need that extra attention, the blind spot system I don't rely on, and the cameras and sensors are really useful, even if they have their quirks. But none of it is a deal breaker. What blind spots have you noticed in your car and I haven't mentioned? Whether it's a Bigster or anything else, it's interesting to see how many of those behaviors are common, not only within the same brand, but also different ones. And if you have any tricks or techniques to use in specific situations, please share them. I might adopt them myself or at least test them. A big thank you to everyone contributing to this project, either through commenting, likes, shares, or any other way. Every interaction helps this project grow. And we are now getting closer to 3,000 followers. Thank you again. Drive safe, and I'll see you in the next one.